All right, everybody, welcome to Laura Entertainment. I am here with the lovely Allison Bergman, the first female to have enough guts to come on the show.
Yay! Oh, we've all got guts. You just got to ask us.
How you doing, Allison?
We're
Doing
so glad. I'm representing today.
awesome. That's good to hear. Okay, so jumping right in, we're going to ask you the fabulous question that we always ask everybody else. So, what made you want to become a director?
So I had been an actor for years. I did actually start as a child actor. And it's kind of in my blood. Both my parents were in it. My father was an actor for a long time. And I had gone through an acting academy. And then when I got into college the first time around, I started realizing that I was really enjoying my work as an actor, but I was a very particular type. And I realized I was never going to get the roles I really wanted until I was much older. I just wasn't. I was seeing I was being sent out for, and I thought, I don't know, is there something else that's going to really fulfill me the same way? And at the time, I was studying stage acting and film acting, but at the time I was cast in some play that was very, very complex and long and 8 hours long. It was crazy. And the director kind of got lost in it himself. And I could very clearly see the threads in the story. I could see what choices need to be made. And I kept that kind of larger objective view of it. And so whenever I wasn't in rehearsal, I'd sit back behind him and I realized I had some real clarity about following the narrative, about understanding the pace, about seeing what the character relationships could be. And the next year I said, I think I want to try my hand at directing. And I switched over and added another year onto my studies there to learn about directing. And then from there, I went on into this. I stayed with directing through my undergrad and then even through graduate school. And I just realized that for some like magical thing that happened, much as I acting, I have to really grapple with the story in a much bigger way than I could as an actor, to really have the conversation with the playwright, whether living or dead, the playwright or the screenwriter, to have that like conversation about how the whole piece was going to happen. That was just really exciting. And so I just got deeper and deeper into it. And then I moved into film specifically because an actor who I had directed years before that on stage had since become a film director and film producer. And he reached out to me. I was living on the East Coast somewhere at that time. And he reached out to me and he said, I've got this film and I think you're the director for it. And I said, I studied film, but I don't normally do film. And he said, no, I think this is the one. I'm going to be in this piece and I really think I want you to direct me. And the piece really had an intimate feel to it. And he said, I really need someone who can bring out what we need in these actors in all these intimate scenes. And I said, if you trust me, I trust you. Let's do it.
Awesome. Definitely.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on to my next question. Tell me about the first feature film you've done.
So interestingly enough, that was a feature film.
Oh, it was?
It was. And I was like, are you sure about this? He said, you bring your magic and I will make sure I have a team for you that can help you do the rest. And he did. I had a wonderful team. My first AD would really keep me on track of where we needed to go next and what we needed to do. And they really gave me the freedom to do what I do best in terms of my actors and the character relationships and all that stuff. And the best part is I didn't have to pretend to know what I didn't know about film, because everybody there knew it might be my first film, but this is not my first time directing. I've been directing for 25 years. And I'm like, I didn't have to pretend I knew what I didn't know, but I also didn't have to pretend that I didn't know what I did. And that was big for me because I really could be straight out clear with my choices and have them be fully respected because I knew what I was talking about. And at the same time, I could lean in and be like, what do we do with that next? How can I achieve this thing that I want to achieve? And really have those hard conversations with my DP and my AD and say, this is what I want it to get to, but I don't necessarily know yet what to call that, how to get there. And so it was just a great team effort. And I'm really proud of that piece. Hasn't released yet. It's in long view post.
NDA.
It's expensive. But when it does, I'll let you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so another question I like to ask everybody is, do you think there are enough opportunities for people out there with limited experience in this industry?
Well, that's a toughie because there aren't even enough opportunities for people with experience.
Yeah.
So, that's just how the business is. Unless you just make your own, you make your own opportunities. And so I think there are some chances for people to network in the industry. There are some chances for people to certainly study in the industry. There are wonderful courses and classes just online that are fully accessible. And there's good mentorship out there. I think those who don't have the experience, the key is to really jump into the network and the community, because that's where your first experience will come from. The people who have experience and are looking for work, I kind of guess say the same thing. There could definitely be more opportunities for people who are generally marginalized in the industry. I would like to see that happen. More programs for women, more programs for people of color, more feelings of inclusivity for people who are coming from other industries, coming from other backgrounds, who aren't working their way up through film school and PA and intern and the usual steps, who come in alternate ways. I would love it to see more opportunities for them. But yeah, I think it's just across the board. It's, there's definitely opportunities if you make them yourself, in terms of just creating your own work, whatever quality that is, with whatever material you have, whatever equipment you have, and learning from that until you have created your own experience.
Go big or stay at home. That's my motto.
Yeah.
Go big or stay at home. That's the only thing I really believe that you can actually pretty much do. You come in scared, and I don't know. I was having this conversation, as a matter of fact, the other day with one of the actors that I have, and they were, well, how do I get big? I was like, don't ever plan on getting in this industry and being big right away, because you are going to work and train. Yeah. You don't just come right in and magically appear at the Oscars on the red carpet without some kind of training,
right? And if you think that, you're just going to be miserable for everything that's not that.
Yeah.
I heard this wonderful quote from what's her name? Mel Robbins, wonderful speaker. And she recently did a podcast, and she said, it's a real eye-opener to remember this. She said, your dreams, they're not a destination, they're a direction.
Yeah.
And so if you keep thinking you're just going to do this till you get the Oscar or whatever, that's not going to be a career for you. But if your direction is toward that Oscar, then everything you do along the way is working yourself there, and you're going to feel like you're making some traction and moving yourself in there, but not feel like that's your expectation, is that if you don't get an Oscar in 5 years, you're getting out of the business. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, there's
ridiculous
actors that have been in this for, the higher up actors that have been doing this for years, and have probably done hundreds of movies, and they still have not won the Oscars. So, I mean,
And at the end of the day, that can't really be what you're in it for.
yeah, exactly.
I
Exactly.
mean, you have to be in it for the craft and the work and the community and the magic that films are. You have to be in it for the love of the doing, not for the love of the reward. I mean,
Or the fame.
Because then what happens? There are people who got an Oscar very early in their career, and then what?
Yeah. Reaching too high too fast.
Yeah, where do you go from there?
After you do that, I mean, what are you going to look forward to after you win one Oscar? And then, okay, yeah, I get it, you're probably wanting to win multiple Oscars, but what really, after you reach that status, do you have to look forward to after that, if that's all you're in this for, is fame? And that's what I tell people. They're like, oh, well, you've been in this. I'm not in it for that. I'm not in it for that. I'm not saying anything about fame, because I'm one of them people where I don't want to have the cameras flashing all in my face, you know what I mean? Or showing up at my house and sitting out in the woods, or whatever these people, the paparazzi or whatever they do, I'm too private for that. I'll go make movies, have fun, do what I need to do, come home. And then when I'm at home, I'm normal.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting I think in general, for me, the idea of awards, I got this early on. Any awards, they're really not about the performances at all. They're really about visibility for that industry, visibility for that genre, visibility for that whatever it is that you're, that's surrounding your particular project. And that's all it really is. It's going to sell tickets. It maybe give that producer money to get the next thing made. But other than that, it's subjective like everything else. And it doesn't equate with value or quality. It's really, it's just a game of profits.
Yeah. It's a numbers game. I said that the other night. I was like, it's a numbers game. That's how I feel. And
yeah,
that's pretty much, is explanatory right there. Numbers game.
Yeah.
Okay, so moving on, what I'm going to, where are you from? Where does Allison come from?
I was born and raised in Hollywood. I am a Hollywood girl. I am not only me, but I'm second generation Los Angeles. I don't even know anybody else who is. Both my parents were born here in Hollywood. I just kind of have it in my blood. Even my grandfather was an architect who designed a lot of the Hollywood buildings. And so it's just I mean, I've lived other places. I've lived on the East Coast, I've lived in Europe, I've lived in the South. I'm back in LA now. But talk about going home. I mean, it's just so ingrained in me, growing up here in mainly in West Hollywood and then later in the Valley. But the culture of growing up in like elementary school with the kids who were the kids of the working actors and working directors. And, I was a child actor myself. And I've been studying acting since I was literally 4 years old. And a lot of the people that I studied with have gone on to have name careers. And so it's an interesting thing when you're having somebody shoot a movie on your street is just kind of a traffic problem. Yeah,
I don't think they got used to it either for a while here in Cincinnati, because a lot of people have been coming here to shoot. And I mean, it's great, but a lot of people, they get irritated. And even when we were filming, I had to shut a street down. And they were but it happens. They come for the tax incentives. And I lived in Anaheim for a while because I grew up in Las Vegas, which is totally, so when you come here, it's a change of pace. And I mean,
Yeah.
even a lot of the people from Hollywood coming down these ways, to like Atlanta or Florida or Cincinnati, even for the incentives, they decide they want to move here because
Mm.
it's a change. It's a change for
Mhm.
them. I mean, I'm sure they probably still keep their houses in LA, but
Yeah.
it's different. It's more laid back kind of country.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, that Hollywood mindset, I mean, when I was a kid, my mom used to keep my audition clothes and my 8x10s in the trunk. And my teachers always knew they'd get a little slip from the office that said that my mom was going to be there in an hour and that I would get excused from school and go do my audition and come back. And they were supposed to, give me send home the homework assignment for me. And I wasn't the only one. I mean, that's the thing. It wasn't like that was a weird thing. When you grow up right in the middle of Hollywood, there are a number of us who are doing that.
A question I have for you. Oh my goodness. Back in, I don't know, let's say 80s, 90s, were they still, how the waiters and waitresses, the people, serving in the food industry, handing out their resumes to people that they knew? I'm just wanting to know, because I've heard that.
That's funny. Well, I never had any experience of that directly, but absolutely that joke about oh, you're an actor, which restaurant, is absolutely true in LA. So it's not unusual. And I think for me, sometimes I have a problem with if I'm at a restaurant and I'm with somebody who we're talking industry stuff, um, and there are certain restaurants here that you always go to that everybody's talking industry stuff because they're right in the heart of it, and that you could just tell the waiter is an actor and they're just dying to get you to look at them and talk to them. And and it's a tricky thing. Sometimes you just I'll go to a party or a social event and I'll say to the person, if they're going to introduce me to people, I'm like, don't say I'm a director, okay? Because I don't want to be everybody's instant friend because they're an actor, because the actors are working the restaurant, working the party, and that's kind of a jaded thing to say. I feel a little bad saying that, but I like to make authentic connections with people. I don't want to just be like, oh, you're my best friend because you're a director.
Well, you don't want somebody coming up to you while you're sitting in a restaurant eating, or if they're bringing you your food and holding your pizza in their hand, and just like, here's your pizza, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sometimes, they're like, oh, you're a director. Oh, what are you working on? Or they try to look at your stuff. Cause I would meet with writers a lot. I'd be looking at scripts. And, if you're in the Hollywood heart of it, they know not to do that. They're very cool about it. But if you're out in the valley, if you're out a little further, they would get a little like, too nice. I feel bad saying that because I know how hard it is for actors and especially actors who have to wait tables at weird times. I mean, the actor life is very hard. It's one of the reasons that I didn't stick in acting then too. For my type, obviously at that time there weren't really any role models for me to look at for actors that were playing lead roles. And for my type. And so I, just felt like, no, I think I need to look at other avenues that I enjoy as well. But more than that too, the actor life. I mean, even now, if I were to go back, and I've done some acting since then, but I would never want the actor life. It's just too hard. I think I would just grow tired of it.
I mean, I've been on quite a few sets in acting. I mean, I love it all. Don't get me wrong. I do. I love it all, but it was easier for me to jump in a business side also because I ran a business before I started the two businesses that I have now. And being on set is great, but I also like to know the whole package. I'm not one to just want to know one thing. I want to know the whole system, how it all works.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And
I think even the fact, when I say the actor's life, on set for sure, that's, you know, different pressures and all that. But I think I would love that part more than the idea of not having a lot of control over, you know, until you're up to a certain level, what roles are out there and who you're working with, and, you know, scrambling for that job that might pay you something, and how much of your time you spend auditioning. And basically auditioning is performing. You go in and you audition for nothing and you go away over and over and over again until you get lucky. And that's the part I think I would feel like I just didn't have enough agency over my, you know, somebody giving me permission to do my art. So I feel for them. It's hard, and I love actors and I love the magic they can bring, but I don't think I could do that over and over again every day. And all that rejection and all that misfiring, you know, set yourself up to get something fabulous and then nothing happens.
I understand that. I mean, even from the management point, I don't manage kids. Reason being is because, one, dealing with parents, and this is just my opinion, is like bridezilla. And I mean, because they're always yelling at their kids and they can't help it, you know, so it just makes the kids more nervous than they would actually be. And I don't want to be the person to crush the child's dream, you know, and when they're so young, they don't understand that they're going to be rejected. But people get rejected all the time. You have to have thick skin in this business. And if they say no, okay, move on. Mm-hmm. You know, there's plenty of other things you can go out there and audition for. I just don't want to be the dream crusher.
Listen, I still have scarring from that. When I was a child actor, I won't go into specifics, but I was very close to a very big role on a very big movie. And, you know, callback after callback after callback. And I never even got to the place where I didn't get the role, because for other reasons, the project had to be scrapped. And it was one of those moments that really would change the trajectory of my career. And that, having that pulled away from me in a way that I really didn't know how to process at 11. You know, you don't know how to not take it personally, like the universe is telling you something, or you're, you know, it's big for an 11-year-old to handle, because it would have been big had it gone through. It would have been huge too. It would have been a big shift too. But I had been gearing up for that my whole child actor life. And finally, especially for somebody in my type, which was very hard for me to get stuff, that, you know, the problem was I was told I was a funny type, but not a funny face. Like I wasn't funny looking enough for the types, for the roles I was up for. So it was a huge thing to finally get this giant opportunity, and then really believing that that's going to change everything for me. And then it got pulled away for reasons that were nothing to do with me. It wasn't even like I didn't get the role. They just had to stop the whole thing. And I will tell you, I still, you know, I had to look at that and see processing, understanding that rejection thing as a kid is still, that scar was there for a long time.
Yeah.
Because kids don't have the capacity to understand that in a more objective way. And it can be really damaging.
So tell me a little bit about what other hobbies do you have besides anything in the film industry? I know you got to have something out there.
So I don't know. I don't know that many people in entertainment and in the arts that have a lot of other hobbies, because like, when are you going to do them? But I do. I love cooking. I love cooking. I'm always I'm a recipe. I go down rabbit holes on recipes all the time online. And I do Zumba. I love Zumba. I'm a little addicted to it. And what else hobby wise? It's kind of weird to say hobby now, because having been a performer for all those years, But I stopped singing professionally a long time ago. And then I rediscovered a new way to sing, which is to sing with a women's singing circle. And it's nothing to do with performance, and it's nothing to do with the industry. It's literally just a circle of women singing together. And the woman who runs it plays guitar, and we just do harmonies. And it's just for the love of that community and music and the resonance. It's just so healing. And I grew up with thinking that singing was about, like everything else, dance and everything else, it was all about getting your best technique and presenting yourself the best and moving toward a production of some sort or towards an audition of some sort. And so this other thinking about appreciating music and singing in a different way, it's just a whole other animal. And so that's a big hobby of mine now, is this kind of singing without an objective, just for the love of the music and the sound.
Yeah, I that's one thing I do love. I love music. My dad was a musician. He was a guitar player.
Mine too.
Yeah. And he tried to teach me one time. I don't know who I was on the phone with the other day. I was talking to somebody, and he moves his fingers so fast. And I played saxophone, and I know how to play piano just a little bit. But I asked him, I was like, Dad, can you teach me how to play? And he just started going so fast. And I'm sitting there like, okay, can we slow down and try this again? But he's so used to playing that he could not slow down to even teach me. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not even trying to learn this anymore. I'm good.
Yeah, it's a muscle memory thing. My dad was a guitarist too. And I remember if we were like getting ready to go out as a family. So it's my mom and my sister and myself and my dad, right? So 3 women and 1 man. So he'd be dressed in 5 minutes, and he'd sit in the living room and pick up his guitar, and we'd all be getting dressed, and my hair, my makeup, a million things. And he would just be out there, and he would just play, and he would do it in this like really, he'd get into this meditative state, and it'd be beautiful. He'd play classical guitar. And it would just be, I remember so clearly, like you knew it was just in his muscle memory. He'd just sit there with his eyes closed and just play. I could just hear him. And it was like, that's a certain relationship with music, that what musicians get to that level where it's just in their blood, in their fingers. That's amazing to me. Just amazing.
Yeah, definitely. So, what is your personal motto or quote to live by?
Interesting. Well, it's a little bit on the lines of dreams or goals or whatever. And it's funny because I just recently said this. It was very sad that I had to say this, but I used to teach. I taught acting and directing at a university, and I taught for about 5.5, 6 years. And I just heard from the head of that program that one of my students, my older students, just passed away 2 days ago, just very suddenly. And it reminded me, I'm like, what was he doing with his life at that time? He's in his late 20s, and was he on, all I could think was he on a track that to something that was making him happy? Because here's the quote: we are all going to get hit by a bus sometime. Where do you want to be on your way to when it happens? And I think about that a lot when I make choices, when I get tired of the slog of trying to make work happen, or when I get frustrated that the money's not flowing that I want, or maybe I'll just get out of it and go on to do something else. I'm a capable person. I could pick something else, But the truth is, huh? What was that?
No.
Yeah. And I've since then, I've walked away from teaching twice now. I've walked away from other businesses because I know what my calling is. I know what I want to be doing with my time. I recently turned down a teaching position that would have made me very comfortable, but it would have broken my heart. So I think about that and think, okay, I'm going to get hit by a bus like everybody else. I want to make sure what I'm on my way to is something that I want to live for.
Yeah.
And so Yeah,
Definitely.
that's my
Okay,
motto.
so how do you choose your projects that you want to work?
Mm. So, I always say there are three reasons to do a project. One is the money, two is the people you're working with, and three is the actual story, the actual material, right? And if you're lucky, you get two of those three. That's be really, really lucky to get two of those three.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I think for me, it comes down to the combination of who I'm going to be working with, because when you're doing a project, you're really in bed with that person for a long time, whether it's developing something that's from the ground up with the writer, or it's with the producer and the art director, whatever it is, you're going to be in with them for a long time. You have to be with somebody you want to be in the room with,
Yeah.
right? So it's absolutely the people, and it's the story, even if it's at a level that hasn't been fully developed yet to make it into a film. But it's people that it's being in the room with people I want to work with, telling the stories that I want to tell. And I have I have developed this sense of like a larger vision of something. I can look at a script because I've done a lot of script development, a lot of that. And so I'm at a point now when I can read a script, and even if it's really in its elemental stages, I can envision the movie and say, do I want to be making that? Do I want to be a part of that? And if I can really see myself doing that, then it's worth it to take the time, help develop that script, help bring in the right producers, maybe, use my own connections to get a name attached, whatever that takes to do it. If I'm committed to the story and I'm committed to the vision of the writer and how it sparks for me a vision of the movie.
So what's your
Um,
creative process like?
so I think whatever I read, if I'm going to do that project, uh, whether I've already chosen it and it's already working with those people or not, or whether it's just about reading something for the first time or talking about an idea for the first time, I have to be able to fall in love with it. If I can't fall in love with it, I can't do it, right? I have to really read that script and roll those ideas over and over and see which thing hits me every time. Maybe it hits me, but I read it a billion times. I read it when I'm hungry. I read it when I'm happy. I read it when I'm sad. I read it so many different times to see what it brings out for me. What does it feel like? What does it taste like? What does it look like? I really kind of get inside the world of it in a really holistic way. It's easy for me to analyze a script. I can do that in 10 minutes. But where does it meet me? Where does it resonate for me? So even if I know I'm going to do a particular project, if I'm committed to that project, I will still sit with it and try again. Where does it buzz for me this time? What about this time? What about and so be really intimately connected with the material, and then I try to get to a place where I have a touchstone for each of those characters, and I always start with relationships, because ultimately that's the thread for me of any project. It's the relationships of those characters, because it's the human thing we want as an audience. We're most interested in the relationship. We're not really as interested, or as we don't have as much attention on the what's the visual and all that for very long. We can have a big visual statement for a couple seconds, but ultimately, how is it influenced the relationship of the characters? That's what I want to know. So I see if I can find my way into those relationships and understand those dynamics, and just I keep weaving them, and what are they up to, so that the subtext is so clear to me that it's like I can get really myopic on that one character and that one relationship. So it's so clear to me and so crystallized that then when I kind of take the bigger view again, I know every choice that would be there.
Yeah.
I know what color they're going to wear. I know what kind of shoes they're going to wear. I know what would be their relationship to the space they're in. at that point for them, because I go really deep in, as deep as I can get in, and just lock on to something that feels really human and really interesting and really messy. I always look for the messy.
You sound
I do.
I just end up in the messy somehow. I don't even know how that even happens because I'm not looking for it, but it just always kind of happens.
Yeah.
So what do you do? Okay, what's it like to work with your specific actors, like in your movies? Do you do anything to make it fun for them, or are you pretty strict on set? Are you lenient?
Yeah, so that's the trick, isn't it? To know the balance, exactly when to be which kind of parent.
I know that.
But also when to be a parent and when to just be a colleague, because I think the best work that I've ever done and the most satisfying I've ever done is when the actor is relaxed and trusts me and I trust them, and they know it.
Yeah.
Because then they can do the scary, messy stuff. Because they know. I mean, I pretty much give that message out when I work with actors. I am never, pardon my language here, but never gonna let you out there with your ass hanging out. I'm never gonna do it. So once they get that, then there's magic in there. They go places that they didn't know they could go. They lose their sense of looking at themselves, and they just do what I call eyes outward. They're only working with the relationship that they have to the other character or to the camera or to the environment, whatever that is. They're working outward, and they lose that sense of being self-conscious, and magic comes out of them. And so I really take time with the actor, even before we get on set, even, just on a personal level, to let them know I have got their back.
Yeah.
And I will let them go to their edges and beyond, and then I'll bring them back. And I think when the actor experiences that with me, then I know that we've done everything we can do to pull that character out. So that's my big thing, is for the actor to know that I got him. I've studied acting technique ad nauseum. I teach acting technique. I figure out what terminology works for them, and I'll talk that language if I need to talk that language. And it makes me, a little schizophrenic, because if I have two actors who are completely different terminology, I can't deal with them the same way. I got to flip back and forth, But it also makes me a really good acting coach. And that's something that I'm starting to take on now and realizing, like, the next level kind of acting coach, like if I can bring that out for another director who maybe their background is more in the cinematography, and they don't either they don't have the language, or they don't have the interest, or they just don't have the time, that I can get in there and work my little actor magic.
Important. I mean, to build a relationship, kind of like when they did Friends, before they ever started filming, they picked their cast, but they took them out, they spent time with them, took them to the I think they took a jet to Vegas, I think it was. Yeah, and just spent time, because once you hang out with people and you're comfortable, you can do anything because you're comfortable with
things you never even imagined you could do.
Yeah.
And the reverse too. You can see actors when they don't feel safe, or they don't trust that the director has all the pieces there to do it. You see them, they seize up, and they just kind of do the minimal expected whatever, because they're afraid. I mean, it's really hard work as an actor. It's vulnerable, scary stuff. And if you don't feel like someone's got your back, how could you give anything beyond your skill and all that you do? And there's some wonderfully talented actors that will do that, and it'll still look pretty good. Yeah. But if they're there with the right director in the right room with the right stuff, you could just, you know, blow
So what
that
do you
thing
think
up.
about all this new technology now that they're adding into filmmaking?
You mean with the CGI stuff and augmented realities and stuff? Yeah, I don't know. It's so interesting. I had an opportunity to play with that a little bit on a project. And it's fascinating. I mean, the learning curve is like, what? How do you do that? You do what, you know, this, well, these guys will be mocap and that'll be this, and you can only have that. And it's a whole other world. How you maintain that actor magic spot and have that background, you know, I don't know. I don't know. But it's fascinating. I think it's going so fast, that technology development is going so fast that sometimes it gets ahead of us. And I think that I get a little frustrated when I see a movie that really feels much more like a video game than a movie. And I think also I've had conversations with producers where I'll say that, like I'll read a script and I'll say, this kind of feels like a video game. Well, sure enough, secretly, of course, what they're planning is to make the movie and then to capitalize on it with video game afterward. And it's like, okay, so you're not making a movie, you're making a marketing tool for a game.
Yeah.
That's a different thing.
I tell
So
you what, I volunteer to talk to classrooms, and I was I can't remember. I think the school that I was speaking to that day might have been in New York, maybe. And one of the kids in there asked me, he was like, would you ever do a Marvel movie? And I was like, I like movies that kind of steer a little bit away from a lot of CGI. I mean, granted, yeah, you need CGI in a lot of things, but I was like, only if I did stunts. Only if it was stunts, because I think that would be fun for me because I would actually be doing it versus green screen, you know, the CGI.
yeah.
I think it'd just be more fun. I mean, honestly, that's just my opinion, you know.
Yeah, I'm on the fence myself because I have seen when I was having these conversations with this art director about this particular movie, and there was some amazing things that I never even thought of that can be done with CGI for, you know, it's a different process. It's putting your money in a different place. But in terms of time, there's a lot of time in the prep, but it shortens the actual shoot days, number of days. And so would it because we were looking at actors who had these crazy schedules. I was like, well, we could probably shoot it in a shorter amount of time if we do that stuff CGI. And I will say there's some of it that, you know, we were never going to go on location to those places, you know, and then or build them. It wouldn't really be a reality. So I'm not sure it's a bad thing. I just feel like we have to really balance the kind of stories that we do like that. Like you said, if it's stunts and stuff, yes. But also maybe we just have to figure out the right marriage for that particular project.
I wouldn't want this production.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
seems like that would be more of a pain in the ass. The post, because they're editing CGI, especially. Oh, God.
Yeah. But you know, some TV shows you don't even realize are CGI.
Yeah.
Like you don't even think about it. You're like, they didn't build that. They didn't light that.
Yeah.
That was not there. You know. So
I swear. Okay, so what do you see? This will be my last question, I promise. In your future.
What do I see in my future?
Yep, what's coming up for you?
So, you know, I told you I came from a theater background, and I love that. I never want to see that go away, but it takes a lot of effort and time and commitment to shift over to TV and film. And so I've kind of, you know, put that a little bit in the background. And my ideal is that I can just flip media wherever I go, because to me, all that storytelling is all the same. It's just, you know, speaking a different language, but it's the same stuff. So right now I'm doing a lot of push I'm doing some more film. But I am kind of in love with where TV is right now. Some of the streamers, some of the stories that are getting told, especially, for me, I'm really most interested in stories that illuminate the world through a female lens. And that might be a female screenwriter. It might just be a female-centered story. But it is something that's happening in TV right now with the streamers. Some of those great playwrights have kind of shifted over to some of the streamers. And I think also because just the amount of content that they're looking for now to fill all that time means things are getting done that never would have gotten done before. The things that are tiny little niche audiences are getting a lifeline that would have lasted, 3 episodes and out. And they're hanging on for a whole season or 2 seasons until they find their footing. And so I'm looking for that now. I'm looking at where I can fit in the TV land with those writers telling those stories, those female-centered stories. The depth of some of those stories that are getting done, I love it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we can't wait to see, hopefully we'll cross paths at some point in time.
I would love that. I would love that, Daphne. Just so charming. I feel like, you tell me if you felt the same, but I feel like the minute we started talking, we were old friends.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm a people person, and I talk to everybody. I mean, if it's a cashier, restaurants, I'm a people person. I love people, and I get along with everybody.
Well, that makes for good filmmakers, because that's all we're doing in film. We're just telling people stories.
Yeah.
Right?
Some of them I wish I could tell.
It's so good to talk with you, Daphne. Thank you so much for inviting me on and giving me space to share. That's great.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the reason, like I told you, the reason why I want to do it this way is because of being able to shed more light into everybody on the other side of the production. I mean, say we were at the Oscars, you guys would already be in the building and the actors would still be rocking the red carpet and they're getting the spotlight, but the people who are actually making, 24 hours a day, 18 hours work days, they have to have some of the spotlight, more of the spotlight, I believe,
Well, I mean, it sounds cliche, but it takes a village. It's really, so much, all that audience sees. And sometimes all the actress sees sometimes is just that little tip of the iceberg. Yeah. And all that stuff that has to happen in order for a film to show up, anywhere. It's a lot. It's just from the dream vision of the filmmaker, of the screenwriter. I mean, that's just like when it's in its nascent, a place where you're just thinking, what if this movie were about blank, to box office and Oscars or whatever. It's an enormous amount of money and time and people and dreams. Right. Creating something that wasn't there before.
Rewriting and then rewriting and then rewriting.
and then the build and the design and the and the shoot and then edit, the post, the sound. I mean, it wasn't there before, and everybody buys into this collaborative dream together. It's everybody.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you, Allison, for coming on, and we will talk again, definitely.
I'd love it. Fantastic. And I'll hook you up with some other women directors. There are some people with some amazing voices that people should hear.
I am calling out all the women directors. Where are you? Because I know you're out there somewhere.
I will send you some links to some women director associations, and you'll find some amazing voices, people who have a much deeper knowledge than I do of this industry, and they're fascinating to hear. So yes, I'll send them your way.
You have a good weekend and stay safe. Too. Okay. Thank you.
You too. Thanks, Daphne.
Bye.
Bye.
day.